Okay, second one of these. This time I'm interviewing the filmmaker, actor, and DJ, Will Greatorex. If you want to be on one of these, please reach out. Now, let's get started. So, first off, would you like to, just introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Will. Um, I'm a filmmaker mainly, but I think I do a lot of different things. Um, I'm a DJ, which is the most fun thing that I do. Um, I've made three short films, one documentary. Um, yeah, that's about it. I don't know. I'm just a creative person. I've done lots of different things. I did have an art account at one point, but I don't know if that was that good. I
Was
don't know
it.
how much merit there was to that art account.
I think I know what the art account was. Was it that. I forgot the name,
It
but
used to have really
it's.
cringe. It's currently it's just called Art from Before Lockdown or something like that. I
Yes,
don't even
yes,
have
that,
access to the account.
that was it,
But yeah,
yeah. I remember looking at that, back when you were posting, yeah.
mm, I don't know how good that stuff actually was. I think it helped me at the time, but
Yeah, yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
some of it there was merit to it. I've still got all of it saved somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a question. Do you have a favorite project that you've worked on so far and why?
Um, I don't know. I think my favorite's the documentary, but that's largely because I know how much research went into that, and I know that everything I say in that documentary is extremely poignant and like it matters a lot to me. But at the same time, that whole thing was edited in like less than a week. And half of it is just me sat in front of a camera talking, and then I would edit in B-roll. So the whole thing was basically made in a week. But all of the research that came before it took a lot longer. Um, I mean, I made it in a week because there was time constraints as to when I had to have it done by, which made it really difficult. But it still came out. If the audio's even good enough that you can hear what everyone's saying at every point in the documentary, then it's probably the best thing I've put out.
Yeah, I think the only issue I had was that the music was a bit loud towards the end, but besides that, the audio
Yeah,
was great. Yeah.
I spent so long trying to get that music right because my headphones were bad and like every time I played it, I couldn't tell if it was too quiet to the point where it would lose all impact or if it was too loud and you couldn't hear anyone. And
Yeah. It was
I wish desperately that I'd made it too quiet, but
Yeah, it was just towards like the very end. But besides that, yeah, I think the audio is great in that. So yeah,
well, it's good to know that you could understand all of it.
yeah. Okay,
It was also very fast paced, which I think made it difficult. I was cramming a lot of information into just
yeah,
30
true. But I
minutes.
think the paper you wrote sort of helps with that as well.
Yeah, yeah, the paper is almost necessary.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
and having to actually cite all of my evidence. I'd hate to think someone would watch that and think I'm bullshitting.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Like,
Okay. So
yeah, because that was a more in-depth research project than it was just a creative endeavor like my other films.
yeah. Speaking of those films, this next question is about them. So both of them feel like quite like personal stories and sort of grounded in reality, even if it's a fictional reality. What was the inspiration behind like the narratives of those films?
Um, the first film, Deal, I think I had just studied at college. Actually, yeah, it was very This Is England inspired. That was like a huge part of it, was that it was supposed to feel like, I don't know, that kind of thing. I wasn't trying to recreate This Is England in any way, but the main crux of the story is toxic masculinity. So, in the sense that I've encountered toxic masculinity a lot in my entire life, um, and have also encountered drug deals. Not that any of them have gone how that one did, but yeah, I think drawing from those two things and trying to think like, where's a really toxically masculine space? oh, a drug deal, definitely. That's when I would find myself putting on a deep voice and trying to act cool and not like some nerdy loser that just wants to make short films. Um, and the second one, I think Tent started by because Tent I had to make for college, so I needed to actually have a story to talk about. Um, so I think I thought it would be really good to have a story that was within a one contained space, and I wanted to call it Shed and put it in a shed. And I knew that if I had a little room, then I could mess about with lighting and put all these crazy colors everywhere and that sort of thing. Um, Turned out getting a shed that was empty enough to film in was like really expensive. Just buying a shed is like £2,000. It's absurd. So we thought a pop-up tent would be better, and then I just kind of constructed the story around that, and I was like, they need to be in a tent and they need to be going crazy so that I can show that going crazy in interesting visual ways. So why are they going crazy? And the answer to that was that their relationship is falling apart. So I don't think that one was actually grounded in anything. My relationship isn't falling apart and wasn't at the time. Um, so I don't know. I think it just kind of worked to do what I actually did. I think the style over substance with the second one. It was more about just having the style that I wanted to do rather than the actual narrative meant something to me. But
Yeah, okay.
in a way, I could say I've personally gone insane before. I think we all have from
Yeah,
time to
yeah.
time.
Who hasn't, honestly?
Yeah, yeah. I think in that sense, and I don't know, coming out from going crazy, being a changed person, and just having a kind of transformative experience by making a radical change to your life is something I think a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah, so in that way, it's not that the story itself is grounded in like anything personal, but it's more like just sort of the general ideas behind it are something that a lot of people go through. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So regarding the presentation of Tent, like it's quite like surreal and out there in parts with like the lighting and stuff. What was your like process behind coming up with the presentation behind Tent?
Um, I just really like weird shit and like colors and I don't know, I guess like a 90s aesthetic that has lots of bright lights and stuff and all of the lights that I actually use in the tent are rave lights that I have for myself for when I'm DJing that I can like make a room all of the colors of tent. Um, and so I don't know. I think it was a strive to just have something that looked wildly different from what everyone else was making. Because like my biggest gripe with all of the short films that we'd been shown as examples for our college course was that every single one of them was just showing like the streets of Clarendon Park, and it's just like houses and shit, and they all look exactly the same, and like the most interesting location is a field. And in fairness, I did still use fields and houses at times, but I just wanted like when you remember my film, you remember all of these weird purples and blues and the green lasers and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, of
So
course.
I wanted like all those lights. I wanted the whole presentation to look completely different. And then as far as visual things, I think a lot of it is like editing. Is just like I'm sat looking at the film on the timeline and I'm like, how do I make this not just look like a camera pointed at a guy? Like how do I make it seem more spaced out and strange and so yeah, I do think a lot of it was kind of just trying to be as weird as possible because that's just like how I felt I wanted to present it.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it worked though. It worked really well. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I think
Um,
it came out well.
yeah. Another thing about Tent is the sound design, like how every like tiny noise or movement, like the rustling of the tent or opening of a door or something, felt like really like loud and like in your face, like a big
Yeah,
impact. Yeah.
yeah, that was kind of an Arto technique of trying to piss off the audience. in a way. Like I wanted a lot of the sound to be grating and annoying because this person that you're watching isn't comfortable right now, and it's not supposed to feel comfortable. So like in every way I could make it kind of harsh and difficult to watch and a bit annoying and like I don't know, it should just give a sense of like that grating noise reflects how they feel.
Okay, yeah, cool. Next question. Who made the score for 10? I bet they're like super cool and attractive.
So obviously you did a lot of the score, a lot of the different bits. Then in fact there were some bits that in a way I made myself because I was sampling other things you'd made and I was like matching them up and I was taking tiny segments and looping it. Um
Yes, yeah, I remember
like
that.
the actual audio timeline of the film at times looks like a music timeline.
Yeah,
But yeah, you did a lot of the score, and I think the score is like one of my favorite parts about the film. I actually I need to rewatch the film at some point because I don't even have it fresh in my brain at the minute.
yeah, I rewatched like all of your stuff to prepare for this, to write my questions out and stuff.
Yeah, I
So,
probably should have done the same.
yeah,
But yeah,
okay.
the score is really cool.
Thank
I thought
you.
the score was that I really liked the opening sound, the whistling, because I wanted it to sound like the intro of I think it's Monkeyland by the Chameleons.
Yeah, I think I remember you sending me that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I want this like wind whistling sound, and you did that perfectly. I just thought it was brilliant, and the synth at the end when everything goes crazy, and I do that. That double shot is from an MF Doom music video. It's the music video for "Hello Governor," where for the whole thing he has that like we filmed the whole thing two times over, and we're showing the left side of the first one and the right side of the second one, and like how we link up. But they did that using like special technology to line his mask up so that it worked perfectly. I just like had to hope that it worked out as best as possible and fade it a bit. But it came out all right. It just gives this sense of like when you spin and do that, it's like everything is like kind of crashing in on them, or everything is exploding out of them, which like combined with the lights and everything just kind of looked really cool.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and although the synth sound, it was I think I just told you make like a bed of synths, just make like as much as you possibly can.
Yes.
Just like overlap anything and make it crazy. And they're like, it doesn't have to sound really nice, but it just needs to sound crazy. And it ended up sounding really nice as well as being crazy. So thanks for that. It was really good.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. So the next question is about a film that you didn't direct but that you starred in, and that's the Urban Young Actors short film "Where Were You?"
Oh shit, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
a,
so what
that was
was
like probably one of the best things I've been in.
yeah? So what was your experience with that like, and how was like working with Urban Young Actors?
Um, I'm trying to remember like the whole process to it. We had this guy write the script. His name's Rory Rawson, which is a funny name. Um, he wrote that script. I don't know how like detailed it was because I felt like a lot of it we were kind of developing the characters as well. Um, and yeah, I got the main role, but we didn't properly understand it yet. And as we developed the character, it kind of everything fell into place of exactly how it'd be done. And I think Urban Young Actors was able to make that. We were given something like a £15,000 budget from the Leicester Arts Council to just to like afford having a camera crew and a sound guy and all the expensive equipment and to rent out. I can't remember what the college that we used was, but to rent out that building. Um, but it was really fun. It was the most professional seeming shoot that I've been on. Like and especially because I was in like every single scene. It was like 2 10-hour work days of acting. But I mean, the lines were minimal, so it didn't. I didn't even have to learn too much. But no, the character was good.
Yeah.
One one really silly part of that film. It was when I get punched by my friend Luke, who was playing a character with a name that I don't remember.
Was it
Um,
Tom?
the Yeah, I think it was Tom. Yeah, he walks towards me at one point because I'm filming someone, like the creep I am, and he punched me in the stomach. But it's filmed from my POV. I'm holding the camera, so I was supposed to like fully lean over, and the camera faces the floor. And then as it comes back up, you see some secret little thing because that film's got a bunch of little hidden bits throughout it. If you have seen it enough
Yeah,
times,
it's great to rewatch it.
yeah, it is cool. But what I had to do, because the mic had to pick up the sound of me going like, oh, oh, because I've been punched in the stomach, and I had to do the most embarrassing motion of like almost going down, letting the camera fall in front of me, and then I had to be like crouched over with my hands on my stomach, but my head pointed upwards. In like, it was just so embarrassing, and just moaning into the air so that the mic could actually pick it up. And I'm doing that in a public room. The whole like everyone from Urban was in that room for that scene, and they were all just watching me while they were trying to act. That was that was an embarrassing moment from that filming, from that shoot.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine so. But yeah. Um, so about your character in that, like, what was it like playing such, well, a creepy character who actually turned out to be like innocent as well? Like that's I found that to be pretty
I don't
interesting.
know if he's innocent. I remember the actual like what actually happened. I guess this would be like crazy lore if people cared enough about this film to be like what actually went on at the end. The ending we decided is so underwhelming because we literally said it's up to their interpretation. We
Yeah,
said that the meaning of the film was that um none of that there is no specific character that's done anything wrong, but like that did the bad thing or that killed her or whatever, but
yeah.
every character has done something wrong. Like it's more about seeing the gray and everything. But I don't know, I think my character was an asshole.
Oh
uh,
yeah.
even if he even if he gets attacked at the end, I think he deserved to be attacked. By that point he was being really weird. I don't know why he thought it was even his place to chase after her.
Oh yeah.
Like, you don't know this girl, you just film her a lot. It's weird. um I don't know. Yeah, he's kind of morally corrupt, and from the start, it's harder to realize because it's a facade. Because he's like pretending to be nice, and because he is actually this like nerdy filmmaker guy, which I could relate to. I kind of wanted to see some good in the character. Um, but yeah, I think looking back, he is definitely bad, and I played it like he was an asshole. Even if you look at the bits where I seem like I'm kind of trying to help, I'm really pushing it quite a bit, and I don't need to be helping these people. Like I was being annoying, and when I acted that, I acted a bit weird the whole time. Like if I'm looking at someone, I would stare them dead in the eyes, and I wouldn't look away because this character doesn't care about people's boundaries. He doesn't think it's weird to do that. Like it's I don't know, little idiosyncrasies of the character that just make him a bit of a creep just in day-to-day life, like standing too close to people or like I don't know, just not being afraid to get in someone's face and that sort of thing. I think you just like there's so much to being a bad person that like is shown in every bit of your body motion and like how you act.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think I
yeah.
portrayed as much of as I could.
That's great. So I was going to ask originally if there is actually enough evidence to figure out the real killer, but I think you've already said it's open to
Oh yeah,
interpretation.
there,
Yeah.
there literally isn't. I don't know who did it. I have no idea. Even when it was written, I could have spoken to the writer about it, but I don't feel like he knows either.
Yeah. Do you have
I
like a
don't know.
theory?
Honestly, I need to rewatch it. I'd have to go back.
Yeah.
I can watch it later and I'll message you who I think did it.
Okay, great.
Um,
I'll put it on the screen or
the
something.
thing is, there's the hooded character in the background the whole time, and I know who plays that hooded character, but it doesn't make sense for the character they play to be that the same, though, to be one and the same. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think yeah, they definitely all did something wrong. Tom's a real asshole.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm a real asshole.
I really disliked that character watching. I mean, like he's
Yeah,
an interesting character, but it's impossible to be on his
yeah,
side
that's
at
so
all.
unlikable.
Yeah.
That's such an asshole. Oh yeah, I'll go back to it and I'll message you who I think did it, so you can get a fan theory from that.
Great.
from the lead character.
I'll put that on the screen. Um,
I
okay.
mean, he did make the film. Maybe he staged all of it to look like it wasn't him at the end.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
that's possible. Wasn't that
It was still
security
that
footage
like
though
he
at
paid
the end?
someone to chase him away so that he could then leave a note and a piece of video showing him getting chased away that they would
Yeah.
include. And I don't know, maybe he's masterminding it from the start.
Yeah.
He clearly planned this way in advance because that he was filming like 6 months before she died.
Oh, of course, yeah. But if he was doing that, like, he'd have to get someone else to be the person in the hood because he couldn't change his outfit like within seconds, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'd chase after someone in a hood for 50 quid.
I mean, yeah, that
Dude.
makes sense. It could
Um,
just be like some random person who didn't even show up in the film that was just paid
yeah, just
off.
some homeless dude that he just paid to go into this school, just gave him an ID card.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, go in here, chase this girl, and then I'll run out and kill me.
Oh my god, yeah, that's a great theory. Um, okay, so onto your documentary. Next. By the way, strongly recommend watch it to anyone watching this. It's a great documentary. So what was
Just
your
listen really hard at the end.
yeah. So what was your like motive behind creating the documentary?
My motivation.
Yeah.
Um, so at one point in time, I went down the alt-right pipeline myself. Um, I think I started watching like Steven Crowder, and it like got me into all of it. And then I went to like Ben Shapiro owns feminist compilations and shit, and I
Yeah.
used to watch them a lot. And I identified with it so much, although I never actually got to the really dark places of it. I would always tell people like, yeah, I'm right wing, and what, and it was actually like it was annoying because I would beat everyone in arguments, but only because they were like other teenagers that knew slightly less than I did, and I could just reiterate bullshit talking points. Um, and looking back, I'd actually just had like very little compassion for people. So I don't know. I think once I there's this one series by Innuendo Studios on YouTube called The Alt-Right Playbook. I think that's what it's called. Um, which I would recommend above anything else to anyone who actually wants to learn about the system of the alt-right and the web of creators and shit that like leads people to really, really dark, radical places. Watch the alt-right playbook. It's like the best series on it on YouTube. The guy's a genius. Um, and I remember watching that and realizing more and more like how easily I slipped into like a place where I was actually an asshole to like my friends, and no one liked the things that I said about certain political topics. And thinking like, I don't know, someone else could realize that, and even if I could make this documentary and then tell someone who I know like, hey, I'm making this documentary about the alt-right, you should watch it, and then we could talk about it and they might stop watching creators like Steven Crowder, and Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson or whoever they were watching. And yeah, I don't know. I genuinely think it's one of the most important issues people should be looking at right now, because there's more terrorist attacks happening in the UK by white radical alt-right kids than there are like in anywhere else in the world, as far as I'm aware. Like it genuinely is harming more people at the minute than anywhere else. Um, and it's also such a haunting thing to think that it's all happening like right under everyone's noses. Like it's all online. It's right there. It's like a few clicks away, but it's still never being found. And like people are talking about it on communities, on public message boards, and no one thinks it's real. And 4chan has done so much to actually hide different things, like certain memes that you could see. There's like there's this one meme that was spoken about. This like really shocked me when I heard about it. They used to have a meme called the Daily Dose, which was a GIF of two characters from Dragon Ball Z, and one of them was R wording the other one. And the one of them is purple and green, I think. And to hide the meme over time because it got banned from 4chan, instead of posting the meme, they would just post anything with the colors purple and green. And so no one even realizes it now. But things like the logo for like Gamergate and all like a bunch of different things that have happened on like online, have been purple and green because they were just made by someone who knew of this meme. And so we're at a point now where if you ever see an image online that hasn't been intentionally made purple and green, it's literally a rape joke. Like, it's insane.
That is
They've just
insane.
hidden it in plain sight that like these horrible opinions and like ideologies that have been pushed everywhere. I just genuinely thought it was a really, really big deal. And and so I thought I'll do something on that.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea that purple and green thing was even a thing. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's really weird. There's a bunch of other examples of things exactly like that.
Yeah, I mean, those communities, they
Strange.
sort of do a really good job of just hiding in plain sight. It's,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's an issue.
Yeah, definitely. So, why did you choose to put your documentary on a platform like Rumble, which is notorious for being used by the very groups that you're talking about and like conspiracy
Yeah,
theorists and stuff?
if I'm honest, it's because YouTube wouldn't allow it. Because because I had so little time to put out this documentary, um, I use a lot of like swastikas in it, and you
Yeah,
cannot put a swastika anywhere on YouTube. I didn't realize that. It's not like YouTube says that anywhere, which is really annoying because my YouTube account very almost got completely banned, which would take down my other films as well because I kept trying to upload it and it doesn't tell you in the like load up screen in the like pre-uploading it that you have content in it that's going to get you banned. They wait until you actually put it out so they can give you a strike, and then it takes like a month and a half for a strike to go away and shit like that. It's really annoying. I wanted it on YouTube, but it is kind of poetic that it's ended up on Rumble. That's the only place that would take it. Um, I'd hope it gets views on Rumble by someone who sees it and realizes they should stop watching certain people and maybe go back over to YouTube because Rumble is such a foul website.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it wasn't intentional, but it is kind of nice that it's there. And one day maybe I'll re-edit it and put it back on YouTube. But I think if I was going to do something like that again, I would remake it from the start. Like I would spend a lot more time making a good documentary about it.
okay.
Um, I think one of the downfalls of the documentary is that it doesn't follow any kind of actual narrative. Like I've seen other things about the exact same topic that have followed an actual story of one person who like got really deep into it and things got really bad and then like I don't know, it culminates in some like actual story narrative that can be followed through a documentary. And if I had something like that, it would make the end result a much more emotive film that would matter a lot more and actually make much more of an impact on people. I think this film far too much requires you to actually care a lot about knowing stuff about this issue. So, as far as doing its purpose of fixing anyone, it's kind of falling on deaf ears. Like the people who are actually like hearing everything I'm saying in the documentary are not the people that need saving from this, like
Yeah,
pipeline,
yeah,
which is yeah, that it annoys me, but I'm glad I still got it out. And I can cite it now in the future as like I actually know what I'm talking about. Look, I made this documentary. Read the paper.
yeah. Now that it's been almost a year since you released the documentary, have there been any like developments related to the topic that you'd include if you made it now?
Um, I'm not sure. I kind of got really sick of researching it. I do say at one point in the documentary, towards the end, I bring up the like researching this as much as I have and like sitting scrolling through 4chan and even going onto a Tor browser to look at 8chan and just for research purposes has like made me very depressed because these communities are really deprived and people who are actually in need of help, often because they're just really lonely and like there's a lot of like in tandem with all of the violent hatred that goes towards marginalized communities, there is a lot of people just talking about how sad their lives are and how like they wish they could get a girlfriend and shit like that. And and then the attitude that these people have towards violence and violent acts and violence as a solution to problems is like so mind-numbingly annoying, and it was just really sad to see that many people have such horrible ideologies. And I know it's because I was looking in those communities, but it gave me a rather depressed worldview for a
Yeah,
while.
yeah.
So after making the documentary and like I don't know, talking to professors and stuff about it, I just left it. I didn't want to find out any more about it. I definitely still have seen a lot of stuff, and if I was going to do research, I'd bring up like the terror. Like there's been multiple, like there's probably tens of school shootings that have happened since I've put the documentary out. Half of which you could probably tie back to the alt right. Like if I did my research, I guarantee I'd find things. But nothing specifically comes to mind that I'd want to talk about any
Yeah.
more than the things I already did.
I
The
mean, that's,
Christchurch
yeah.
is like the number one example that I would point to for everything.
Yes.
Like they had so much stuff.
Yeah. It's completely justified that you wouldn't want to look into it anymore. I mean, it's a minority, but it's still really disturbing that that's out there in the first place. Okay. What's some advice that you'd give to someone wanting to make their first independent film or documentary?
Mm. Um, uh, Two things. Probably one of them would be just like actually sit down and do it. Like you've got to just start. The thing is, people when it comes to like actually making something in a creative process, is you have to kind of warm up a creative bone. You can't just start doing something and think that the whole thing's going to come out. And what a lot of people do when they want to make a film is they've thought of like a specific string of dialogue, like just a few words that if person A said this and then person B came back with this, that would be really cool in a film, I think. Or it's like I've got this one specific shot and I know where I could do it, but I need a whole film so that I could actually put that shot in it and stuff like that. People always have these like really sporadic individual ideas that they've got to tie into a bigger thing. And so just learn that like you just sit down and draw out just that idea and then do like a mind map or whatever works for you. Some people do bullet points or whatever. Um and just actually start building from that bit. Like people would refuse to actually sit down and start writing a film that they have one idea for because they don't know how they'd write the whole film around it. They think I've got this shot, but that shot would probably be at the climactic point of the film, not at the opening. So they sit down and think I'm going to write the opening. But you just can't do that because that's so far from the climactic moment. You have to like work backwards sometimes. And then the second bit of advice would be to just plan a lot more than do a lot more planning than you do actual filmmaking. Like you should spend probably 80% of the time making a film before you've even picked up the camera. Like just sat down looking over things and making sure things like cause and effect actually make sense. And like always question your writing. Always think like you write a scene out and you write that this person would do this and in response this person does this and then they're going to walk over here and do that blah blah blah, but then sit down and think like but why would they do that, like would they not do this, like just really question yourself over and over, but you've got to put yourself in the mind of a critique of a like an actual critic to get something that makes sense at the end. um and I don't know, yeah, just do what you enjoy, I think, but just really plan it, like plan a lot more than you think you need to plan. Plan every single bit because when you're actually making it, when you're directing, when you've just got the camera and actors, your job feels very like it doesn't feel like you're working on a film. It just feels like problem solving. That's like the whole job when you're actually directing is just like solving issues because issues will come up. Um so just like if you have developed everything around your film, not just the film itself, as much as you possibly can, then you'll have reasoning as to why you could make certain creative decisions just on the spot. And like, I don't know, you should really engulf yourself in your own projects so that when it comes to making it, you can solve those problems better.
Okay, brilliant. That's great. Okay. I haven't actually written this down, but since you mentioned it earlier, I actually didn't know you were a DJ. Do you want to talk about that a bit?
DJing is not difficult, and anyone who wants to DJ should just like buy a DJ deck and do it. The hardest part about being a DJ is pulling together £50 to buy a DJ deck and having good taste in music. Because I mean, there's probably some difficult bits that are high level to that you can do, but as long as you've got good speakers and an actual mixing board and like you've downloaded Serato, you can DJ. It almost feels like a huge downgrade from other creative things. I don't spend hours planning them out. I mean, I do spend a lot of time just DJing and I write down like specific mixes to the point where I've developed my own language of like how I understand a mix and how I draw out the timeline literally on pen and paper. And then I look at the book while I'm DJing. Um, I find it's a lot of fun, but I've specifically chosen to do DJing in my gap year because it's not like a super hard creative thing that I have to really put my mind to. It's just a lot of fun. So like, yeah, if you're a creative person and you want something to do that's not tiringly creative, try DJing. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. And also another thing that I haven't written down is about your art account because I've just remembered that that existed. Would you like to talk about that a bit as well?
Um, I don't know. I think the art camp just kind of got me through a difficult time. I mean, it was lockdown. Everyone was going through that at the time. Um, and I just like I wanted something creative to do. It was probably more procrastination than like anything. I find that like the two things that make you creative are stress and procrastination. Like one of the main ways that I would start doing things if I wanted to be creative is I would think loads about how I have to do schoolwork right now. And then I'd be like, yeah, but instead of doing schoolwork, I could start drawing pictures. Um, the art account was fun. It was inspired by this one art account on Instagram. It's this artist called Pablo E. Prada, who's this like Spanish guy who does these really cool art pieces that are I don't know, they're just like simplistic and very emotional, but they look so good. Um, and and I think I just like wanted to do similar things and just draw like characters and just like reflect myself into a character. But a lot of it was really dark and edgy, and that was still just part of like teenage angst, I think, which I still have a lot of. To be fair, I still have those things on my wall and stuff. Like I really like that kind of art. Um, I think one of the coolest things about that art account is that you can actually see a progression in like my ability with art because it started I was using um what's it called, the like the new version of Paint 3D, the like default Microsoft Paint account, um or like the Paint program, and I would just like do anything I could to make something still look cool even in the context of it being on Paint 3D. And then later on I started using Photoshop because that had a lot more you could do with it. um and I don't know, I really liked scribbly art. I'm not actually that good at drawing. I did end up buying a drawing pad to do slightly more detailed stuff, but I'm not very good at art by hand. I can't draw that well. Um, and you can see that in a lot of the art. So a lot of the style of the art became um like intentionally bad to, I don't know, reflect something in that. Um, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. It definitely got me through sometimes, and I like a lot of the art on here.
Yeah. Okay. Agreed. Very cool art. I
Thanks.
I think I had like a pretty similar experience, except with music for me during the whole lockdown thing. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, cool.
music's definitely a really emotional art form.
Oh yeah. I mean the whole friggin' Disciples of Organic thing. You sampled one of the songs Intent, I think. Um,
Yeah,
that was started because of COVID. So yeah.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
Okay, so
I really
next,
I like anything electronic. Electronic music's my favorite shit, so I
cool.
did enjoy the was organic. Just going through that and finding different bits.
Yeah, it's disbanded now though, so yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Is it still up?
What,
Is it all
sorry?
still viewable? Is it all
Yeah,
still up? Like
everything's still up. Everything's still up on the channel. You can download everything as MP3s as well. But yeah, we're not making any more music. I'm not on good terms with a couple of the people who used to be in it either. So,
um,
but yeah, it was fun what happened.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So next up, are there any projects that you're currently working on or that you have planned that you can share any details about?
Um, Not really, actually. I've taken a step back from being really actively creative during my gap year, and then it will it should all start back up once I get to uni, and I have like more stress in my life and more motivation to do it. But at the minute, I don't know. I'm not doing too much. Obviously, I'm still DJing and stuff, but I'm not making anything specific. The most recent thing I did, the only other thing you could look at is if you go to the Urban Young Actors like YouTube. I'm assuming it's on YouTube, or just look up their Instagram to try and find bits. There was a series of 4 short films that we made with like all of the different groups at Urban Young Actors, and I filmed all of those, which was a lot of fun. Um, Actually, Urban is an example of something I am doing stuff at Urban. Like it's a weekly thing. It's not something I'm doing in my own free time. But at the minute, we're doing um a bunch of different pieces that will come together as a group and show the groups these little drama pieces. Um, so we've been given a script, and just working through that now is getting me more in a creative headspace because I'm like trying to figure out like how can I make this script as weird as humanly possible without changing the words. Um, and yeah, I think that's the only creative thing I've got going on at the minute. But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm always doing something. But yeah, I'll be putting more stuff out in the next like I don't know, probably before the end of this year. But maybe not for a bit.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Um, I used to be with Urban like a few years back, so I know it's pretty fun. Yeah.
Mm, a
Okay.
lot. Of,
So next up, this question, very important question. What really happened to the Weird Kids podcast?
um. Um. So there was the final episode that we recorded but was never edited, and by the time it came to like we've got to really edit this one now so we can keep it going, we'd all moved on a bit. Um, and other people had gotten like jobs and so like we didn't have time to keep caring about this podcast. And it was because we did it during lockdown when we couldn't speak to anyone. So we spent ages just sat on Discord talking, and we were like, why aren't we doing something with this time? Um, and the reason it will never come back, although it had ended way before this, it the reason I took it down was because Joe is a prick, and I didn't. We're not friends anymore.
Yeah.
For various reasons. I don't need to go into the reasons here, but yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
me and Joe are not on good terms at all. Um,
that's
I
how it
mean,
is.
maybe on okay terms actually.
Yeah.
Recently, things have been weird, but yeah, I don't, I don't like looking back at our friendship much, and so I took them down partly because I think the humor is so outdated. It was so like going crazy in lockdown. It really reflects like we had spent so long just watching things over and over and over that the only thing we found funny anymore was like screaming Family Guy impressions as loudly as we could.
Oh yeah. I've still got that video up that I made on it. If you want me to take that down,
Yeah,
if you want me to take that
no,
down, I can.
no, by all no, keep anything up that you want to. I I mean, one day I might put them back up or have a look at them or get them back out just to show friends. But I'm like so embarrassed at this point by them. I like that we did it. I thought it was really fun at the time. and I liked that everyone in the school wanted to be on it. Well, I still probably have a list in my notes of like 30 different people that wanted to get onto the Weird Kids podcast.
Oh my god.
Um, but
That's
none of it
great.
ever came to fruition. There were so many people. We were talking to like random roadmen from the school who have been like, I watched that podcast you put out. That was hilarious. It was so weird.
Oh, that's
So I don't know.
brilliant.
But also, like, we don't need more white men making podcasts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely hard agree.
There is enough. We'll
Hard
leave it where
agree.
it is, and we'll just make short films instead. And I don't know, Joe can be in his band or whatever he's doing now.
Yeah.
But
Um
yeah, what happened is Grace didn't edit them. Grace stopped editing it, and we stopped remembering to tell her to edit it. And then we all decided, like, I don't know, we just like never spoke about it, and then realized months later, like, oh wait, we had a podcast.
that's fair. That's quite funny. Um okay. So, is there anything else you want to like talk about before we sort of finish this off?
Um, no, nothing comes to mind.
Okay, great. Anything you want to promote as well?
Um, I don't, maybe look at the Urban Young. Actually, don't look at Urban Young Actors because there is embarrassing stuff of me on there. Just go rewatch my films. To
Yeah.
anyone actually watching this, go rewatch things and try and find little details in them that I actually spent ages thinking about and putting stuff in. Because things like with both Tent and Deal, every part of it has some like reason behind it. I wasn't just doing a lot of things for aesthetic purposes. I wanted it to like make sense and have cohesion throughout it. And like, I don't know, there's a lot of things that went into that that get completely overlooked by someone who just sits down, watches it, and then doesn't think about it ever again.
Yeah. I've rewatched
No.
them all a few times, so yeah.
Anyone that actually cares enough about those films, keep watching them and have a look at it.
Yes. Okay, great. And also about
Like really into it.
yeah, about urban actors having embarrassing old stuff. You, don't worry, I'm in the same position. There's a certain film that they have that I appear in that will not be named that is still up from years and
I
years ago.
I have friends who used to be in urban around that time, and they have told me not to watch any of those old films so that I don't see them either.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll look. I might. I've never done a deep dive on the old urban stuff because I know all of the people in it now, and I know that they would hate me if I'd watched all of
oh yeah.
it.
Okay, great. So that should be everything. That's all the questions I've got written down. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being on. Yeah, it's been great.
Really cool.
All right. That's the end then. Gonna
Cool.
stop. I'm gonna stop recording. Bye, viewers of the
Yeah.
channel.